From child brides to chain makers, from teen moms to trailblazers, from silence after rape to speeches that shake nations, from forgotten names to forces of history. She rolls beyond trauma, past mistakes, and everything meant to break her. This is the Beyond Her Odds Show. Real stories that inspire you to rise, to heal, to lead. Because if she did, so can you.
Welcome to Beyond Her Show, and today is another beautiful episode with a beautiful guest that I have right here. If you're just tuning in for the first time, my name is Raquel Kasham Daniel, and like I always say, you can call me RKD. I'm deeply honored to be with you today and every week till the end of August. For those who have been joining us, you agree with me that we've been having fantastic guests on the show, and today we have another amazing guest on the show. But before I talk about the show, I'd like to remind you that this show is brought to you by Beyond the Classroom Foundation and supported by the Ignite Project. That's the reason why we're here. And so, for those who've been following the show, you already know that we center all our stories around women. We talk about women issues, but focusing on women who have gone beyond their odds. So, from child marriage to early pregnancy to name it, addiction is as long as you've gone past that odds and now you're doing something with your life, you're welcome on the show. And our goal is to inspire girls who are listening to know that it's possible to go beyond their odds. And this week, I'm sitting with someone who is very close to my heart. She's smiling. She's my friend and my sister. She's a human resources and career development consultant and the founder of Meg Consults. I know I should be drum rolling, but no, I don't ring the bell. And she's also the founder of the Kayil Lady Ministry. But long before all these beautiful achievements, there was a season of confusion. Like everyone that's come on the show, there was something. And I always say, we'll get to know it as we transition. Eventually, we hope that we inspire anyone that's listening, from parents to girls, boys, anyone that's listening. But like I always say, our target audience are adolescent girls. Girls who are just listening on radio, they're home and they're just with the radio set and are looking for something to inspire them. You are listening to the right show. So, my guest is Mrs. Peters. Yes. Welcome to the show, Eniola.
Thank you so much, RKD. It's an honor to be here today.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to be sitting next to you.
Oh, I feel good. You're welcome. So you're our eighth guest. We've had 7 people before you.
Yeah.
And I know you were a guest here, but not like an audience guest a couple of weeks ago. So I know you've heard the show and you know how it goes.
Yeah.
So we want to hear your story. We know you have a lot of stories, but we want to focus now on a particular story. Everyone has beautiful stories to tell, some painful, some beautiful, but people really do want to share their stories, but we don't have the time to listen to everything. So we want to take one part of your story that can connect to young girls.
Alright.
So when we're discussing, and I was trying to get the part of your story that I wanted to share on the show, we talked about you having academic setbacks at some point in your life. And that's what we're going to be talking about today on the show, and how you became who you are and becoming, and still becoming who you are becoming despite that setback in your life. Everyone that sat on this chair that you're sitting on has had to go through something that they're here to share. And so we can't wait to get there. But I want you to give us a background about your growing up, because I like to connect it to childhood. I always feel like no matter how beautiful or how bad a future is, there's something to connect to our childhood. So take us to your childhood, a bit of it, somewhere around secondary school. Let's see, how was it?
Okay. Thank you so much, Raquel. This is an honor to be here to share my story, especially on academics, like I've never shared before. And you're right, everything traces down to the childhood, the background, because that's the foundation that we have. So for me, growing up was fun. Growing up was interesting. I was the 5th out of 5 children, and I was the last one. I was the spoilt one. I was mommy's pet, daddy's pet. And I came from the home where the father and the mother wanted to choose what everyone should do.
Mm.
So my first brother was an accountant, second sister was a doctor, the other one was supposed to be a lawyer, and all those professional courses, when we're growing up. But I was the fun one. I was always the very playful one, the one that they say sit down there and I've jumped somewhere else. And back in those days, 1980s, there was no fun course. It has to be serious. And, I grew up from a home where every Christmas party, when people come to the house, they look at me and they say, she looks like a nurse.
Hmm.
And that was where my career started.
Auntie nurse.
Starting from when I was like 7 years old,
Mhm.
they'll tell me I look like a nurse. They'll come. And then my father maybe saw, okay, yes, she looks like a nurse, so she should study nursing.
Mm.
And then nursing was a big deal. Like if you're a nurse, not in Nigeria anyway, but if you're a nurse, then you have opportunities abroad and all that. My father had it all figured out. So I was being groomed to be a nurse. So starting from when I was 10 years old, things like, somebody had an injury. Nurse of the house, come and treat us. And unfortunately for them, I never liked blood. I don't see blood. I can't see blood. I can faint just at the sight of blood. But I didn't know. So when it was time to start secondary school,
Yeah.
I was in junior secondary school, of course. I was in a public school and I was always playing drums, like running out of school and all that. Because I was not a serious type. I've never that serious. So my father said, okay, now you're about to enter secondary school. We need to change your school to a private school. So they moved me to a private school. And I was just like, 12 at that time. And then he said, oh, you're going to science class. Science class, private school. Coming from a public school that everybody arrange, you've passed. It's a private school that you can't arrange anything. You have to sit with your exams and pass. And then science class for that matter, when you're learning stone kidney and all those biology courses that I can't even simply understand for the life of me. Like, what are these people talking about? And so I failed SS1. I was asked to repeat SS1 class. And that was when it dawned on me that I had something they called the fear of failing. That was my odd. I had the fear of failing. I saw the report card and I couldn't go home. Not because my parents are going to beat me, but because I cannot fail. Like failing is something I am so afraid of.
Even
Like
as a teenager.
shivering, like I can't go home. I
Wow.
can't go home. I can't go home. So I went to meet all the teachers that I failed their exams, and I started begging. I was kneeling down. I was begging.
Wow.
I said, I can't fail. I can't fail. In fact, there was one that said, just go home. Your father will not beat you. I said, it's not about the beating. You don't understand. My mom would just, okay, don't worry. You repeat the class. You'll do it again. I was like, I can't fail. I
As per
can't fail.
last
I
born
can't fail. I
level.
can't fail. I can't fail. I begged and begged and begged. Luckily for me, they listened and they made me write the exams again. And then I passed just by E. Just pass, just go. So I went to SS2. And something stood out for me. There was one other girl that was my friend, Eniola, and she was asked to repeat as well. She didn't beg. She wasn't afraid. She repeated the class.
Wow.
So in SS2, I always looked at her like, how can somebody, be asked to fail and then, she didn't flinch, she didn't move, she repeated the class. And that was when I was like, okay, now like you're actually afraid of failing. And it was a thing for me.
And you were in secondary school?
Yes, I was in secondary school. And it's not because I was dumb or dunce or I wasn't intelligent. Apparently, it was that fear of failing that made me fail. And then I walked on eggshells till I left SS3.
Wow.
I was just always being careful so that I would not fail. So I'll read not because I want to understand, but because I don't want to fail. Do you understand? And then, of course, university is different. So I was reading secondary school not because I didn't want, to fail, but I mean, because I didn't feel, I said, no, I can't fail. You can't fail. You can't fail. I passed my exams. I passed my SS3, NECO, WAEC, everything. In fact, I think the only D that I got was Yoruba.
That's when you wrote SS3.
Yeah, when I wrote my WAEC, the only D that I had was Yoruba because I was ready, but I was afraid of failing.
And you see this you just shared, and for I'm sure that when you were younger, you didn't really connect it to it. Now as you're older, you're looking back and you're thinking, oh my God, this was happening to me. Like,
Exactly.
is that how petrified I was of failure? And the thing is, nobody tells us at that time that failure is okay.
It's okay.
And
Exactly.
nobody says to you that don't worry, when you failure, you learn from failure.
Exactly.
And nobody tells you that all the inventors didn't just invent; they failed
They
multiple
failed.
times before it became. And nobody told us that before something can become perfect, it has to first come out the way it is first in your head, then you perfect it eventually. So nobody encouraged. So a lot of people have gone through that, and so at this point, I like to always interject to say, if you're a parent and you're listening, this is your cue. I always have something for parents. You can't escape me. I always have something for you people on the show. This is your cue to tell your children that it is okay to fail.
Yeah.
You can't say the people that have what's that got first came first, they don't have two heads. You hear all that a lot, and you can high five them and say you did well, but you can do better, you can try. And even though you were last, but you felt like they were not going to be scolded at home, but some children would actually not be able to go home because they know that they're going to be dealt with. So I'm glad that you didn't take advantage of your last born status to misbehave. But so I read your book, and I know that there's a part where you mentioned during the holiday you go to work with your dad. And I really wanted to bring that forward because a lot of times we don't we try to put our children out of our work, and we don't let them learn like entrepreneurial skills or business skills early. And most of us have small businesses or growing businesses that our children would have benefited from being a part of, and could have been a family business if we just taught them how to do it better. But that's not where I'm going to. I'm just giving a background to say, tell us about this part of your growing up where you had to go
Okay, so after SS3, I filled my jam form, and because I didn't want to do nursing, I didn't tell my dad what I filled. So I filled international relations for University of Ibadan. Everybody in my house, caveat, everybody in my house went to Wafemi Awolowo University. I didn't want to go because it was too serious. I wanted to go to UI where I could have fun, play, and do everything I wanted to do. And then the JAMB result came out. I got 298, which I overpassed cutoff mark and all that. And then next thing my dad said was, hey, congratulations. Now let me call my professor in OAU to tell him that my daughter is coming to do nursing. And I said, I filled University of Ibadan.
Wow.
He said,
they should have told you.
So at the end of the day, I missed that university. I couldn't go to university that period. And that was when I started working with my dad. So it was like my punishment was to work with him for 1 year. While all my friends have gone to school, I stayed back at home. But for him, it was punishment. To me, it was like a life lesson because I learned customer service. I did recruitment at some point because I was the one always recruiting. Maybe there's a sales role available, and it was a cyber cafe. So I had, plenty customers that came to the office, came to cyber cafe just because of me. I learned so much working with people, relating with people. My people relations, my people management skills grew at that point.
But at that point,
But at that point, it
you
was
didn't know,
not.
yes, you didn't know
It
that.
was not. It was a punishment for me because all my mates had gone to university. I was at home and all that. But one thing I learned early, which I would say thank you to my mother for, was that in every situation, she always made it look like there's no situation that is a mistake or that is an error. You are there for a reason, so enjoy it instead of complaining. And that really helped me, while working there. I wasn't complaining, and it affected me so much that when I ended up entering university, every weekend I came home because my dad couldn't do without me. I was like the bang da da dang, like the best there was. So people will not come to the cyber cafe if they realize that I'm not around. But the moment they hear, oh, Eniola is around, they'll come, the cyber cafe will be full. So at the point my dad was like, he's losing sale.
When you go to school.
So it was a good lesson for me. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I was being paid salary. But the funny thing is, at a point, my dad said the salary I'm being paid is what he's using to send me to school.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah. It was an amazing time, and I learned a lot. And those lessons helped me
later on.
And it wasn't just career lessons. I learned life lessons. And then one thing clicked. I'm like, so you can actually work without going to school. That was when one thing that stuck in my head, like, so you really can have SSC. Before
Mm.
SSC is like a disease.
It's not enough.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
But now I just realized that okay, so if it all the most important thing is soft skills, life skills that you can actually use to actually start first, get a job first.
That's what you thought.
That's what I thought. No, honestly.
Nobody flogged you.
No. But it was actually the truth.
Mm.
You can actually, it's not to encourage not going to school, but it's to encourage self-confidence. That if you have life skills, if you have soft skills, you can actually get a job while you're progressing in your career. And that's why the likes of now National Open University and all this what's it called? Schools
Part-time schools.
that they're thriving now because people are now working and going to school. But at that
point,
time, there was nothing
Yeah,
like
but that was a risk, you know.
Yeah, it was.
At that point, that was so risky because you had the opportunity to, your parents were able to send you to school. You had the opportunity for someone to pay your school fees through school. Your siblings already paved the way, all went to school. So there was no reason not to.
For
So
me not to go
anything,
to school.
anything other than that is beyond trying to say, it's beyond soft skills. It's actually now being a very difficult child.
Wicked. It's wickedness.
It's having a
Because
difficult child.
I
And
remember
yeah.
when there was one incident that happened because my father really wanted me to be a nurse.
Yeah.
So he sent me to one of the best nursing schools in Nigeria. That is in Elisha, Wesley School of Nursing. And I didn't want to be a nurse. I was a very stubborn child. And I got to Elisha. I went to meet his friend that was a professor. And I said, "Sir, I don't want to be a nurse." And the guy said, "But your daddy, what would tell him?" I said, "Just tell him I failed the exam." I didn't take the exams. I
So
just
you made an adult man to lie?
Yes, he lied. But the funny thing was there was a day they were now gisting, and then he just casually told my dad that your daughter self, she didn't do the exam.
Oh wow. You see, so the thing
But
about
I
lying
didn't
is that it will
really
get back.
yeah.
It get back. So now this is where I come back to the young ones. I always come back to you. I always have something for you on the show. Now this is your turn. If you lie, it would always surface. It will
always,
resurface.
always.
There's nothing you want to do. There's no how you want to hide it. As long as it's a lie, it will come out later somehow. Because you will forget that you lied and you want to say it again. And then when the person gets a hold of you and say, "Oh, you lied," you want to lie to cover the lie. And before you know, you have a pile of lies. So this is where I say, if you are in that position where your parents want you to do something and you don't want to do it, your best bet is to have a conversation with your parents and not lie about it. So you see, we're bringing these stories to you so that you can learn from their mistakes. They are doing very well in their lives, though, but some people didn't make it this far.
Yeah.
Right? Some people did all that they did and they found that there's no beyond our odds for them. The odds was with them and it was the end for it. But you don't want to be on that path. She didn't want to have go to nursing school. She didn't have that conversation with her parents. That's something you want to do now. I've had people during our teenage meetings say, if I don't want to do a particular course, my parents want me to do the course, what should I do? The first thing I ask them, have you told your parents you don't want to do the course?
Exactly.
My first boss out of university, his dad wanted him to do a particular course. Now I can't remember, but he wanted to do economics. And then, but he was such an obedient child that he didn't have that back and forth with his dad. He just went to school. At the back of his mind, he knew that certificate was for his dad. And as soon as he was done, he came back and gave his dad and said, "Thank you, sir." He had written JAM. He went back for economics. And then so he has 2 degrees. And his father was like, "Your mates are going for NYC." He was like, "I'm going back to university." Same university for his 2nd degree. And while they're asking him how far, I said, "Oh, you wrote JAM, he had already passed." Because he had it figured out, but he was already older and was
person,
smarter.
yeah.
And he went to do his economics because he really wanted economics. And then he has 2nd degree. He did so well 1st and 2nd degree that he was even offered professorship in his university to go like for a PhD to come and be like an assistant something. And he turned it down because he knew what he wanted. But he couldn't have that conversation with his dad. He just went to honor his dad and came back and gave the dad. And the father was like, "You could have told me. You wouldn't have wasted 4 years of your life."
Wouldn't have
We
hurt.
don't know that. Now you don't know.
You know,
So if you're a young person listening, just try and have the conversation first. Right?
Another thing that affected me was the fear that these our parents had put in us, that you can't talk to them, whatever they say is the final. So for me, that was my own way of being rebellious. which a lot of young people are always rebellious. And, sometimes, you realize that these people, it's not because they mean you or they want to be wicked to you. My father actually had good intentions
Yes.
for me to become a nurse so that I can travel abroad and I can do, everything. Because all my siblings that they picked courses for, they're successful.
But
And they're doing very well. I am successful.
When we get
But
it.
the painful thing for me was it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Mm.
So I was very stubborn. Like, you can't force me to do what I don't want to do. But I later realized that it's not because I didn't want to do it, because I was afraid I was going to fail
from it. Yeah. So the fear of failure can actually hold you back, from doing so much. And we cannot let fear hold us back. We cannot at all. If we let fear hold us, we're not going to leave our houses. I recall one time I was at the airport when there was a plane crash, and then we're heading straight to another plane. And I kept telling myself, why am I entering this plane? There was just a plane crash in Lagos. What was going on here? I was at the airport when there was a crash, and I walked into the next flight to Abuja. And I was like, we get mine, though. Because you're thinking, because so if I said because there was a plane crash 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago, everything is okay, then I want to go back home and go by bus. What about the road accidents? So really, so I just told myself, you know what, let's just do this. And I got on a plane shivering till I got to Abuja. I couldn't sleep for 1 hour. My eyes were open. Any little jittering, I was shaking. So we can't let fear hold us back. And we're coming into the part where you had a setback when you got into university. So what course did you take eventually, Mrs. Peters?
Okay, so I got into university. So I wrote JAMB again, and then I got 262 cut-off mark for nursing, Obafemi University. I was on merit list. I was like even on one of the top 5 people that entered nursing.
Wow.
That year.
Smart student. I've been having very intelligent people on this show. Thank you.
And so that was where it all started. I became afraid again. Everything was looking like jargons to me. The chemistry, the physics, the fact that you have to wake up 6 a.m. to go out to class. It was looking so heavy. And then first semester, the result came out. I think the only course that I passed was psychology, because that's something, because it was an elective course, and that was the only course that I passed. Everything else, EDF, EDF, EDF. And I knew, because I wasn't connecting, I wasn't enjoying it, and I felt blank. For me, that was it for me. And when the first semester result came out, it was bad. Then the second semester result came out, it was worse. And then I was advised to withdraw from nursing. So when the advice came, somebody told me, said it was just an advice. You can take it or you can't take it.
Yeah.
But alas, it was not an option. Advice to withdraw simply means you have to leave the department. It shook me. It shook me to my core, and I felt like a failure again. And then I realized that the fear of the failing thing had never really left me. I knew that fear was going to hold me. It held me down, and I couldn't see my front. So for like a year, I was just in school doing nothing.
So you didn't go back home?
No. I was that kind of child. I didn't go home because I didn't want to face my parents to say I failed. Still that fear that you're going to look at me and say you're a failure. Even though I have a feeling they wouldn't say it to my face. They would have probably found a way around it. So 1 year I was in school just moving around, and I know there's so many people out there that are always in school, just floating, you're not doing anything, you're just in school. And then after 1 year, my sister called me and said, okay, so my sister, she's the closest, she's the only one that knows Nike, that knew then. So what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. What are the courses that we can do in school? I don't want my parents to know. I don't want them to know. And a part of me also blamed my dad, because, like I mentioned, I was always going home every weekend.
Yeah.
So some days we had tests, impromptu tests, that you say, oh, I have to travel. You come and replace me at cyber cafe. And because I loved working, I'll jump at it and I'll go back to Lagos. So a part of me blamed him, but the real reason, I knew that it wasn't their fault. And I think that's another thing that I learned early in life, not to blame people for my misfortune. It was my fault, solely my fault. I could have easily told them, I have exams, I can't come home, and find a replacement, and they would have found a replacement. But I jumped at it. In fact, there was time my father said, Shebi, we're trying to get you to go to Australia to go and study nursing. There's nothing you're really doing in school and all that. So that part, I was like, okay, so if I told them that I failed, he would have understood and said, oh, I was a part of it. I would have come come out of it together as a family, but I did it. I ran away from home. I didn't want them to know. And then I changed. I wrote JAMB again while I was in school. I did what's called pre-degree, and then I entered as international relations, which is what I wanted to do. And then first year of international relations, I found out that we were two people bearing Eniola Coca.
Wow.
The other one's middle name was Busayo. My own middle name was Adetone. So I don't know the whatever that happened. They gave her the admission. They said the admission was ours, not mine. So I lost that admission. So
Not
for like
again.
3 years, I was just
Floating.
it was a lot for a young child. At that point, I'd already
How old
lost.
were you?
I entered university at 16.
Oh, so you were like 18 at that
Yes.
point, 19.
So
Oh, that's
it was
young.
a lot. I was just floating and going around and going around. It was a lot. And then, okay, so my sister said, okay, there's this course, local government, blah, 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 blah. Come and let's apply for it. So I applied for it. It was a diploma course, OND, right in OU as well, because I just didn't want to go home. So I did the course. I entered. We finished.
You're smart,
2
so you got
years.
in.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing is, I think when people are expecting too much from me, I cower. I'm like, don't. But that one, nobody was expecting anything. It was no expectation. So it was an easy peasy. I entered. We did it 2 years, and then I graduated, and then it was time for me to either choose. By that time, I'd spent 10 years in Obafemi University.
That's a long time.
Don't put 2 degrees. I spent 10 years, and it was time to admit a lot of people that have come, they've gone. I was a part of different drama groups. I was very active in my church, so it was a very good time and very bad time at the same time. John, I don't know if you get it.
Yeah.
I was depressed academically, but I was thriving spiritually. I don't know how to say it.
I get it.
And it was meant to be an all-round experience, but I didn't have the all-round experience. I was down, out. I was feeling like, okay, Eniola, you know what? You're a failure. Academically, you can't do anything. You're just this, you're just that. So after 10 years, there was one day I just woke up and said, you can't keep staying in school. I
Yeah,
didn't used to
because
go home for break.
at some point, after 4 years, your dad, you say, how fun, NYC.
My sister had already told them.
Okay, at that point.
My sister had already done the paper. So my father at the point even said he was going to disown me because I didn't do nothing and I did this and I did that. So everything, there were so many dramas in between, but that's not why we're here, And so after the 10 years, I'd already finished my diploma. I was trying to go in again for international relations and all. It wasn't just working. And then one day I just woke up. I said, you know what? You're going to Lagos. You have to go and get your life together.
Lagos. Let's wait first. Who hold it down? This Lagos. This is the second person on this show that woke up one day and said, I'm going to Lagos. What's happening in Lagos, please? Okay, so I like to bring it home a bit here so that just in case you just stumbled on the show and you're wondering what are they talking about. You know what? We're sharing a story here about fear first, about active parenting and both way where a child speaks to the parent listen, and there's no fear to talk to parents because what I can see from here is that there's so much that could have been avoided if you only had the conversation. So I come back to you people again, my young stars that are listening. Talk to your parents. Just and this, thank God, this generation, people are even very bold and fearless. You can just say what you want to say. But for those of you who still come from homes where you are not confident to talk to your parents, this is your cue to go and have that conversation with your mom and your dad. See, these people are not going to kill you because they love you. The truth is, the reason why your last dad was trying to get her to do nothing is because he loved her. He loved her so much. He wanted her to do something that would help her life. And so that's the part he saw. And so a lot of times, because we think that when our parents are doing these things to us, they hate us. Oh, my father doesn't love me enough. That's why he's stressing me. He wants me to live his dream that he could not live. Sometimes that's not what it is. Sometimes it's actually a dream they want for you, not for them. And so we start to be rebellious. And we wouldn't have spent all these 10 years, and no nursing, no international relations. Then we have local governments that we can't do anything with. And that we had Coach Tega here, 13 years because of substance abuse. If only she had just had a conversation with her sister and said, this is how I felt about, so because her mom was not in the picture and her sister was the mom. So it's the same thing here, that we are unable to talk to the adult in our lives. And because of that, Now look at what we've gone through. But then that didn't stop you, because after 10 years, something changed. You decided one day that it's enough. I will take this local government degree that I have and I'll do something with it. Then I'll put together everything that I know from the past, from working with my dad, from all the setback from nursing school, from all the setback from international relations, everything. I'm going to do something with it. What changed?
Okay, so what changed was I just got tired of just being around and not having a progress. And then I remembered the 1 year gap, between 15 years to 16 years when I worked for my dad. And that's clause that I gave you, that you can actually get a job, have a life without a degree first. It came to my mind and I'm like, okay, I have OND anyways. So why do I feel I'm being limited because I don't have a BSc yet? So I spoke with myself. I sat down, I prayed about it, and then I carried my things. I entered Lagos. I was staying in a friend's house. I didn't go home still. Why? Because I was just afraid that they were going to look at me and say, oh, out of all of your sisters and brothers, you're the failure, da 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 da, which I later found out that they wouldn't really have.
I've done that, yeah.
And then, you were saying something that children should listen to their parents. Also, to speak to their parents, also listen to your parents, because sometimes they're saying the things that you might not want to hear at the point, but it is very important.
Yeah.
So I went back to Lagos and I prayed about it and I said, okay, let's see what will happen. And then I got a job. Interestingly, I got a job with
the
British
OND.
American Tobacco.
Yes. Yes.
And I was like, okay, so this thing is real. Okay. And then I did like a 3 months job for them. And then I got another job at Etisalat. I worked at Etisalat for a year and I was earning cool money. So it wasn't like, and then I'm like, okay, now, so this thing, I was just the one limiting myself all along. I could actually do this thing. And then I met a lady one day, and that was when it clicked that, okay, I've been the one shortchanging myself. She saw me, she finished, interestingly, she was the girl that they replaced me with in international relations.
The other Eniola.
So she saw me and said, Henny, how are you doing? I was like, what are you doing? So I'm like, oh, I'm working with BAT. And she was like, you're working with BAT? I said, yes. I said, how? If you can work in BAT, which means she knows my story. If you can work in BAT and me, I'm jobless. That sentence. Like, sorry, you have BSc, me, I have OND. I'm working.
Yeah.
You're not working. And then I go home, I knelt down, I'm like, thank you, Jesus, for opening my eyes to see this thing. And then I said, Eniola, you're not your qualification. You are more than your qualification. You need to harness all the skills you have inside of you. Use it to work while you further your education if you really need it. And then after a while of working BAT, then to Etisalat, back to BAT for like 3 years. Then I entered Jobberman, and then I said, while I was in Jobberman, they were trying to work promotion. I was now told, oh, you have to go back to school so that because it's part of our criteria. For you to get to this level, you need to go back to school.
So hold it. Don't forget what you're about to say. I hope you heard that. There are some places that you could get to that degree will come in handy. Okay, let's
exactly
continue.
Yeah, it's very important.
There are some places. It's not everywhere.
It's not everywhere. Yes. But it shouldn't set you back. Shouldn't hold you back. Yes. So I got to University of Ibadan. Distance learning still ended up in University of Ibadan, right? And then I studied philosophy and psychology and social physiology, and that's it. I did long distance learning. I did it in 3 years. I was done. I had my certificate. I got promoted to Jobberman. And then I was just like, so at the end of the day, I was my own setback.
Yeah.
That fear that was holding me back was actually even afraid of me.
I like that.
Yeah. That fear that was holding me back, that holds us back, really, is actually afraid of you doing things. And, at the end of the day, I sat with my parents. I told them everything. I'm now a graduate, in case that's what that is important to you.
Yeah.
But I'm doing fine. I'm doing really fine. I don't feel held back by failing or by all the errors. Sometimes some people even said that was being done by village people because of that admission stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it for me.
Thank you so much for sharing that because it's very powerful. A lot of times, we don't know that the power, the thing that we carry on inside of us is very powerful. We don't know that we come in with gifts and a lot of giftings and skills. And some we pick along the way, like you picked when you worked with your dad, and even some you pick in your worship places, like place of worship in your church, those skills, those drama you've been doing, all that they were skills that you learned and then you used it with your OND. Look at where you went to. But I want to go back to what I said about the fact that sometimes you get to certain places and certain career paths we need you to have your BSc or your BA or whatever it is, that your first degree. But some people start businesses and they never need to use it, But if you're not starting your business and you want to grow a career in a company that needs it, then you have to go back. And even if it's distance learning, we have lots of them in the city, inside in Abuja. Go and enroll. There's now university, there's so many around. I think Philomath University, I don't know if it's distance learning too, but I've been seeing billboards around of different universities. If you have to go back and do it like she did, you can go back and do it. But if you don't want to and you want to start a business, there are so many people also who are doing well without it. But most of them are not in jobs, like careers that we need them to climb up the ladder, because that is the criteria for many companies. But if you have your own business, you're growing your own business, which a lot of people do right now, and you can just pick up a creative skill, learn how to do media on online, a course, short course, technical skills, you can move on. I think that's what you're doing now, which is where I'm bringing all this. But before I bring it, I want you to think about it. I want you to tell us what you're doing now, how you are using everything that you've learned, your many programs that you're now doing to help young people to have meaningful careers, like we called it, right? Now you are using your story to inspire them and also using your skills to support them in their own careers. I want you to tell us how you are doing that. Eniola, thank you so much.
Thank you
for
Arkady.
sharing your story. I know, like you said, this is the first time you are publicly sharing the story. I know the part of it is in your book. Some people have not read it. You're going to tell us about your books and everything as we close. But this time, I want you to tell us what you're doing, how you decided you went back to Lagos, you got a job, you've moved, everything, things are happening for you. Look at you today doing amazing stuff, right? But what are you doing with all this amazing stuff to help other people?
All right. So one of the things I wanted to mention was that so when I started working with Etisalat, okay, no, before I got a job, I was a day star one church in Lagos, and then someone walked up to me and we're just talking natural. And so, what do you do? I said, oh, I'm looking for a job. And he said, oh, would you like to work in a bank? I said, oh yeah, I would like to work in a bank. What's your qualification? I said, OND. And I was like, ah, okay, sure, no problem. Give me your CV. And then I go home and I sat down. I'm like, I don't want to work in a bank. I can't work in a bank. I can't sit behind bars. And so I called a friend of mine and we're both looking for a job together. I said, Kende, do you want to work in a bank? And she said, yeah, sure. Well, we're both looking for jobs. Any job I see right now, I want to work. I said, okay, you know what? I have an opportunity. The guy asked me to just take my CV to this bank and ask for so person. When you get there, just say you're Eniola. And she went, she mentioned my name, and they gave her the job. And it felt good. Like, helping people get a job. What does that mean? I mean, I sat down, I did my research, and I found out it was called recruitment. So that was what made me interested in HR in the first place. And so I started helping people in court write their CVs. I didn't learn it. It wasn't something that I went to school to learn how to write CVs. And like I said this morning, I think I'm one of the best CV writers in the world.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, So I didn't learn it. It came naturally. I just realized that, no, your CV shouldn't look like this. I'll package it. And everyone that I wrote CVs for got a job. So I became, this is nice. So in fact, at some point, I do it for free. Like, oh, you don't have to pay me at all. And then I started working with Jobberman, and then I'll see some CVs. I'm like, if only this CV was like this person would have gotten this job. And then it became a passion thing. I said, okay, I really have to look at these things. Let me see how HR works. And then I realized, okay, HR has to do with human beings, which means helping them be the best version of themselves at work, and all then, of course, now extended to real life and other areas of life. And so that's how my career started. That's how my life started. I was interested in HR. I was interested in recruitment. I was interested in talent management. That when I worked in BAT, I worked under one of my mentors. He was a talent manager, and it was always teaching me how to manage talent. Some of his meetings with talents, I'll be there with him, and then he'll be talking to the talents and we'll be interviewing the talents. So it was interesting for me, like, oh yeah, I finally found thing that
thing that
I
you love.
love.
Yeah.
And then it also helps in making people happy, because
Exactly.
one of my core has always been, as long as I make you happy, I am happy. And so that helped me define myself. And then I started, working as HR. I worked with an organization for 8 years. And all of this, I can tell you categorically, I didn't go to school to learn it. I didn't study any course to learn it. It came naturally. And that's to say that whatever comes naturally to you is not a mistake.
Yes.
And you should on your skills, whatever comes naturally to you, because
Yeah.
that was it for me. And then I started studying more on AIDS. I started, okay, this is how this works. This is how it works. That I don't know how to explain it. It's just so beautiful when
Yes.
when I'm talking about HR, I'm talking about recruitment, I'm talking about talent management, and people are looking at me like, how do you know all these things? And I'm like, I just know it because it's something that I'm passionate about. And then just after that, so after a while, I started my ministry on the Caillou Lady Ministry, which still comes to helping women be the best version of themselves. I've
Yeah.
never really been a women person until recently, that everything is now looking like, okay, women have the most issues, like men, they're too confident.
That's not good. Yeah.
Man, yeah. So that helped me, and then in helping people, I find out that I'm happy.
Yeah.
I feel fulfilled. I feel you don't have to go through what I went through, what I have been through, which is part of educational challenges, career challenges, feeling like you're not yourself, or feeling like you're a failure, and then helping people understand that fear is just fear. It's just a feeling. It's not a thing, really. If you can put it aside, you can prosper. There's really nothing wrong with failing. I was, counseling someone recently, and she failed an exam, and I was like, you did fail, you just didn't meet cutoff mark. It means you can do it again.
Yes, exactly.
So instead of feeling depressed, down and out, that's my ministry now. That's what I'm doing now. That's my focus now. Helping young people, get ready for a job as well. Like, okay, so you can't just come out and say you're looking for anything. You need to know exactly what you're looking for. Like I did. Like, because if I didn't give my friend that job, I wouldn't have known it was recruitment I was interested in. What are you doing? What is that thing that you love doing, that before I start preaching and enter the whole spiritual thing?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's actually been an exciting time listening to you talk about, fear. A lot of times we don't talk about fear. And so we'll take a home point for us on the show today is that we will not let fear to hold us back. We're going to have those difficult conversations with our parents or people that in authority will have that power over us, and we're going to believe that what they have for us is love. They have for us for the things that they want to do, and we're not going to let that hold us back. My people, we've come to the end of the show. It's not like it's always, I won't say, I say 1 hour and 1 hour is gone. And so thank you so much, Eniola, for being on the show. We're really grateful. Thank you. We're honored to have you on the show. And so for all those who are listening, or do you have anything else you want to tell us on the show for you guys?
Well, I don't think I've not said it, but let me say it again. That thing that you're afraid of is actually afraid of you. So if you're afraid of failing is also afraid of you. When it looks like you have failed, dust yourself up and try again. Try and try and try till you get what you're looking for.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. To everyone that is listening, let Eniola's story be a reminder to you that academic success is important, because she eventually went back to school and got her degree, even though she got it part-time. It didn't matter. But like I say, it's only one part to your purpose. If you don't have it, you have not failed. Whatever you have in you, it can be redirected and it can be used for other assignments. So hold on to that. We're back again next week, 3 to 4 p.m. on this radio station. But if you want to send us a message, don't forget, you can catch us online at Beyond Her Odds, at BEYONDHERODDS on Instagram. Just send us a message. We'll be receiving your messages and we'll be replying. I hope you know that if we don't reply, it's not because we don't we don't want to. It's because we haven't seen it. So send us your message, make a comment, ask questions, and our guest here would do well to respond to them. Thank you very much for listening. I remain Raquel Kashan Daniel, your host. Until next week, stay blessed and go beyond your odds.